That cabin is an eyesore. Her voice sliced through the still mountain air like a rusty blade. I looked up from the steps I was sanding and saw her, sun hat, sunglasses, clipboard in hand, pointing at my home like she'd just spotted a public crime scene. "You're lowering property values," she yelled. It wasn't even 9 a.m., just another peaceful morning ruined by the woman 2 lots over who'd decided she was judge, jury, and visual executioner of our neighborhood. I didn't answer. I just stared, because in that moment, I realized something. She had no idea what kind of war she'd just started, and she definitely didn't expect what color I'd fire back with. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, she'll regret ever dragging her little clipboard down my road. Subscribe, like, and watch how one man turned HOA madness into something beautifully ugly. Let me rewind. 6 months earlier, I moved into this cabin after years of city noise and stress had taken their toll. I didn't come here to rebel or stir the pot. I came to breathe, to fix up something old, to live in a house where the trees outnumbered the people. The cabin wasn't much at first. Roof leaked, floorboards bowed, everything smelled like mice and pine needles. But it was mine. I fixed it up one nail, one plank at a time, sanded every surface, rebuilt the porch, installed storm-proof windows, stained the roof a deep cedar red that matched the forest. It wasn't flashy. It was quiet, calm, honest. Exactly what I needed. And then came her. Her name was Tessa. But around here, she earned a more fitting title, the Karen. She didn't introduce herself like normal people do. She came by 2 days after I moved in and left a typed note under a rock on my porch. "Welcome to Cedar Ridge. Please maintain property aesthetic as outlined in our visual harmony guidelines. Non-compliance may lead to community concern escalation. Cedar Ridge Standards Committee." No phone number, no signature. Just that. Thing is, Cedar Ridge doesn't have a standards committee. We barely have mailboxes, but I shrugged it off. Maybe she was trying to help. Maybe she was old school, or just bored. Then came the second letter, and the third, one about non-neutral tones clashing with terrain, another about roof glare. One actually used the phrase topographic dissonance. I'm not making this up. That's when I realized she wasn't going to stop. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. I was staining the east-facing wall, warm gray, neutral, weather-resistant, nothing wild. She walked right up to the edge of my driveway, took off her sunglasses like she was about to scold a teenager, and said, "This is going to be a problem." I didn't say anything. She continued, "This cabin violates the natural palette of the ridge. The committee has spoken. You'll need to repaint." "There is no committee," I said. She smiled, tight, joyless. "Then I am the committee." That's when the idea hit me. If she wanted harmony so badly, I'd give it to her. My way. Next morning, I drove to town, stopped at every hardware store I could find. Then I found it, a custom shade called Citrus Blast, bright loud, exactly the same color as the lemon yellow SUV she drove up and down this ridge every day like she was patrolling a palace. I bought 4 gallons and smiled all the way home. That afternoon, I started painting, the main wall first, then the door, the shutters, the porch railing, the trim. By sunset, my quiet forest cabin looked like it had been dipped in a radioactive fruit smoothie. It was glorious. The next morning, I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee and waited. It didn't take long. I heard the tires on gravel, then the brakes, then the silence. "What is this?" I looked up, smiled. "Visual harmony," I said. She stood frozen, staring at the cabin, at the siding that now matched her car to a degree that hurt the eyes. "You can't. This is retaliation." "No," I said calmly. "It's coordination. You said I clashed with the ridge. Now I match the only thing that moves through it more than the wind." She was speechless for about 2 seconds. Then came the threats. "I'm reporting you to zoning, to the HOA, to the state if I have to." "You do that," I said, and took a sip of coffee, because what she didn't know was that I'd already checked the county codes, and what I'd done, was 100% legal. By noon, I had 5 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. By 2 p.m., a fresh envelope was taped to my door. Thick cardstock, fancy header, Cedar Ridge Visual Standards Committee, formal warning of aesthetic disruption. It accused me of willful discordance with community palate and warned of possible collective neighborhood measures if I didn't restore harmony. Signed, Chairwoman VSC No Name. Just a title. She was actually doubling down. I nearly laughed. There was no committee, no HOA with legal authority, and definitely no right for her to dictate paint colors in a county with no zoning board for private cabins. But she wasn't playing by rules. She was making them up. I took the letter, stuck it on my fridge like a child's drawing, and went back to painting the back wall. Extra thick, extra loud. That's when Clay walked by. Clay lived down the ridge. Ex-forester, soft-spoken, big hands, the kind of guy who builds sheds just to relax. He stopped at the edge of my yard. "Damn," he said, squinting at the house. "That's new." Liking it, he grinned. "Looks like her car crashed into your cabin and exploded." "That was the point," Clay chuckled. "Just so you know," he said, stepping closer, "you're not the first." "First what?" "She's been doing this since the day she moved in. Visual standards, property lines, fake HOA citations. She tried to find the McConnells for their doormat." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "Claimed the pattern was too urban." He shook his head. "I think she printed those letters herself. Nobody else signed them." That night I went online, local Facebook group, Cedar Ridge posts. I searched her name. Nothing. Then I searched Visual Standards Committee. Bingo. A thread from 6 months ago, someone asking if it was a real thing. No one responded clearly, but a few people mentioned getting letters. One post caught my eye. "If the lemon SUV lady tells you you're in violation, don't panic." She did the same thing to us. We painted our shed gray. She called it mournful. I screenshotted everything, then added it to a folder I'd started, Karen Files. 2 days later, she escalated. I woke up to find a small sign planted at the end of my driveway. "Pending review, subject to correction, Cedar Ridge Standards Committee." It looked official, laminated, even had a QR code on it. When I scanned it, it went nowhere. Fake, but convincing. That same afternoon, a family of hikers stopped to take a photo of the house. They thought it was an art installation. I waved from the porch, then came the neighbors. First Clay, then the Thompsons, then even the old couple who never spoke to anyone. They came by, slowly, cautiously, one at a time, to say the same thing. "Thanks for standing up to her. She made my son cry over a bike flag. She told us our patio chairs evoked clutter. She tried to tell me my curtains violated tree tone congruence. It was absurd, and it was spreading, but so was something else." Solidarity. I started getting thumbs ups on my walks. A guy I didn't know dropped off cookies. Someone taped a note to my door that read, "Thanks for adding color to the ridge." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just paint anymore. This was protest, and the louder the yellow, the more people paid attention. I kept going, painted the mailbox, hung matching planters, even replaced my porch light with a soft amber bulb, the same color as her license plate frame. Then I ordered one final touch, a wooden sign, hand-carved, harmony achieved. I hung it right under the window where she'd yelled at me the first time. "And her?" she snapped. Next morning, she stood in the middle of the road yelling about community collapse and aesthetic terrorism. I heard her on the phone with someone saying, "We need a real inspection. Someone with teeth." I smiled, because I knew what was coming, and she didn't. The inspector showed up 2 days later. County issue SUV, clean white. No markings beyond the small decal on the door. Code compliance, Mountain District. The man who stepped out wore jeans, boots, and a gray windbreaker. Clipboard under one arm. Calm eyes. He didn't knock on her door first. He came straight to mine. "You the owner here?" he asked. "I am," he smiled. "Got a report about a possible zoning violation. Paint color. You mind if I take a quick look around?" I shrugged. "Be my guest." He walked the perimeter slow, took 2 photos, nodded at the gutter alignment, checked for drainage, and returned to the porch. "Everything looks fine to me," he said. "Roof's clean, setbacks good, no structural flags, paint colors not regulated out here." I raised an eyebrow. "Not even for visual harmony?" He smirked. "We don't regulate style." I handed him the laminated sign she'd stuck in my driveway. He scanned the QR code, frowned. "This isn't us," he said. I figured. He tucked it under his arm. "She make this?" "She doesn't sign anything." The man sighed, clicked his pen. "Mind if I keep this for my report?" "Be my guest." As he turned to leave, I saw her, standing across the road, arms folded, watching, waiting. The inspector gave her a short wave. She didn't wave back. An hour later, I found another note, slipped under my doormat. No envelope, just black ink, block letters. "You've made this personal. I tried to preserve standards. Now I'll preserve order. No signature." I laughed, then put it in the folder. Things got quieter for a bit, too quiet. She didn't show up on the road, no new fake signs. But she wasn't done, not even close. 3 nights later, Clay called me. "Check your camera," he said. I did. At 1:13 a.m., my motion alert showed a figure in a hoodie walking past the side of my cabin. She thought the hood made her unrecognizable. She was wrong. She stopped at my garden bed, bent down, did something, stood up, walked off. I went out in the morning. 2 of the planters had been pulled out of the soil and smashed. The wooden sign? Gone. Ripped clean off the wall. I didn't go to her house. I didn't send a letter. I called Riley, the same sheriff who helped me months back when a different Karen had made a late-night scene. I told him what happened. He asked me one question. "You want to file a report?" I paused, then said, "Not yet." He understood. "Keep documenting." "I am. And call me if she shows up again." The next morning I replaced the sign, made a new one. Bigger. Harmony doubled. And I painted the front porch railing purple. A deep royal purple that looked awful next to the lemon yellow. It clashed violently and intentionally. By the weekend, something shifted. She started getting pushback. I heard yelling from her driveway, someone shouting about fake letters and made-up rules. Clay texted me, "Just saw the Thompsons tear down one of her signs." The Schraders put up string lights, bright red, full rainbow across the porch. The Bennetts painted their mailbox pink. Even the McConnells, who'd never said more than 5 words to anyone, suddenly had a flamingo statue next to their door. It was like a dam had broken, and the flood was color. That's when she snapped again, sent out an email to everyone on the neighborhood list. How she got the emails, no one knew. Subject line, "Crisis of Community." It read like a manifesto. "I've done everything I could to keep this ridge respectable. I've warned. I've educated. I've documented violations. You've mocked me. But when visual decay spreads, so does moral decay. This place used to mean something. Now it looks like a carnival. I won't stand for it." Then she tried one final move. She printed out violation slips, real ones, copied from a city website, left them in mailboxes, pretending to be official. Problem was, one of them went to a man whose daughter works in the county zoning office. She made one call, and things unraveled fast. By noon the next day, the phone rang. I knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Riley's name popped up, but it wasn't his usual greeting. "Hey," he said, "we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. "What's going on?" "Remember that real zoning officer I sent to check out your place?" he asked. "The one who gave her that warning?" "Yeah, what about it?" "Turns out she wasn't happy about it. She's claiming harassment, said she felt personally threatened by the inspection." I could hear the frustration in his voice. "She's trying to press charges?" "I wouldn't be surprised. She's claiming emotional distress now, which is rich, considering the only emotional distress anyone around here feels is from her. But it's serious enough that the county's involved." I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly. What does that mean for me? Nothing yet, but she's talking to everyone now, and she's trying to get that fake HOA we've all been ignoring to back her up. It's getting messy. I rubbed my face. "I'll handle it." "Just be careful, all right?" Riley warned. "And keep doing what you're doing. Just maybe tone it down a bit. She's about to get real desperate." I thanked him and hung up. By mid-afternoon, I saw the storm coming. Her SUV was parked in front of my cabin. She was standing on the porch, hands on her hips, staring at the house with that same arrogant look. I could feel her rage from across the yard. I took my time walking toward her. "Nice purple," she said when I was close enough. "Is this your way of fighting back?" "Just color theory," I said casually. "You said my cabin didn't belong here. I'm making sure it does now." Her nostrils flared. "You've crossed a line, you know, and I'm not going to let you get away with it." "You think this is crossing a line?" I pointed at the fresh paint. "You started this with a line. I'm just finishing it." She raised an eyebrow, her voice getting tight. "I'm not leaving this ridge until you're held accountable. You've made a fool of me and my entire vision for this community." "Funny thing," I said, keeping my tone light. "I didn't ask for your vision, but you know, if you need a hobby, I hear unofficial visual standards aren't a legally binding thing around here." That made her seethe. "I will have the last word," she muttered. I wasn't worried. That night I stayed up late, going over everything. The photos, the emails, the screenshots of fake violations. Everything I'd been collecting over the last few weeks. It was time to send the message. Not just to her, but to everyone else who might try to follow in her footsteps. I drafted a formal letter. Clean, concise, legal. It was time to involve the county directly, to take the official step. But this wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about putting a stop to the cycle of fear and control. The next day I went to the county office with a folder full of evidence. I handed it to the clerk, who raised an eyebrow as she flipped through it. She glanced at me, then back at the documents. "Someone's been busy," she said. "I just want it on record," I said, "that she doesn't speak for everyone here, that I'm the one who owns my land." "I'll get this over to zoning," she said, "but I think you might have done more than just fix things. You might have taught someone a lesson." I left the office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridge, I saw something I hadn't expected. Tessa was standing at the edge of her driveway, her hands pressed to her hips. But she wasn't yelling. She wasn't fuming. She was staring at the neighborhood. At us. At me. Across the street, Clay was waving from his front porch. The Thompsons were out with their kids, laughing. The McConnells had put up a colorful flag. Even the old couple next door had hung fairy lights along their fence. It wasn't the protest I'd imagined. It wasn't loud or in your face. It was peaceful, quiet, colorful, and Tessa couldn't do a thing about it. She turned on her heel and marched back inside her house. By morning, the news was out. The county had officially written to her, confirming that there were no legal grounds for her to enforce any kind of visual standards. They'd put her in her place, but politely, and she was forced to remove all self-declared HOA signs from her property. It didn't end with fireworks. It didn't even end with an apology, but it ended with a simple truth. She was done. And for the first time since moving here, I felt like I had finally taken control. That afternoon, I painted my cabin a different color again. Not bright, not loud, just the shade of the forest. Calm, blending in, yet strong. And when I finished, I sat on the porch, waiting. The doorbell rang about an hour later. It was a man I didn't recognize. He was holding a large box. "Delivery for Tessa?" I looked at him, then back at the house where she used to live. "No," I said. "That's not hers anymore." The man nodded slowly, then turned and walked off. As I watched him leave, I realized she had no hold here anymore. And this cabin, it was finally mine.